Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Camden Black Workers Group Black History Month event. I'm Vino Sangarapillai. I'm one of the co-conveners of the CBWG alongside Jare, who's the fellow co-convener, and Hugo, who's the chairperson. I'm also active as a branch officer in the Camden Unison branch. Now, the CBWG was started almost 40 years ago. It's been around as long as I've been alive to work in conjunction with the trade union, with the Unison Trade Union branch in terms of representing all ethnic minority workers, you know, in sort of our interactions with the council and with the employers and so on. So, you know, it's good to see in the audience some people from the sort of early days of the CBWG who are sort of, you know, coming to visit us again. So obviously my thanks to those who've been organising this, my thanks to the Irish Centre for hosting us, and my thanks to the council for their assistance with the hard work that some of the volunteers on our executive have been doing. So firstly, I'm happy to welcome the Mayor of Camden, Sabrina Francis, who will be saying a few words.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
Hello. I just wanted to start by saying how really honoured I am to be here as a guest of the Camden Black Workers Group. I know that you all work really tirelessly to make Camden a better and fairer employer. And I really appreciate your hard work because obviously you do it alongside your actual jobs, which is probably the most important bit. And I know that you are busy like advocating for change and doing your normal job, and also organising great events like this and being really active part of our Camden community. I think this event is a really poignant one. We know as a community that often we're overlooked and not given the recognition we deserve. So it's incredibly uplifting to be part of a celebration that's kind of righting that long-held injustice.
Most women fail to treat things like crow's feet.
What is that? That was weird. But yeah, as I was saying, I think it's really, for me personally, really uplifting to be part of an event that's sort of righting a long injustice of black communities being kind of ignored and our successes not really being counted or paid attention to. And I'd kind of just like to, you know, point out a few people. So from sort of George Washington Carver, who was an American agricultural scientist whose work in the early 20th century taught poor farmers how to diversify their crops and feed themselves, and his work also gave us peanut butter, to Claudia Jones, who was a political activist that held the precursor to Notting Hill Carnival in our own borough. It's worth remembering that we have lots and lots of unsung heroes, and we also have lots to celebrate, even if it doesn't always feel like that. As I said at the launch of the Camden Black History Season, I really think we should use this year's Black History Month theme of Proud to Be as a springboard, so that's something to remind us of the many things and people that we have to be proud of in the past, but also something to propel us forward, so we always have more to be proud of. I just want to finish by saying that personally, I think it is great that our stories of ingenuity and discovery from the past are increasingly being told, but I'm going to make a personal commitment to amplify business owners and thought leaders and creatives now so they get the attention they deserve in their own right and when they can bask in their success. So we're not always looking back at people that we should have really been proud of. We're doing it while they're here and while they can really achieve the most and be as successful as possible. So thank you. I hope you have a great evening, and I hope the rest of the Black History Season goes really well.
Thank you, Councillor Francis. Next up, we have the leader of the council, Councillor Georgia Gould, who'll be saying a few words.
Thank you, Vinovan, and thank you, Sabrina, who I think is someone for us all to celebrate. Sabrina, I don't know if everyone knows, is Camden's first black female mayor, and we've often said that it shouldn't have taken so long, but we're really proud of everything Sabrina is doing. And I'm so happy to be here in person. It feels a long time, we were just saying. since the last proper in-person event we had for Black History Season 2 years ago. And I'd like to just say a massive thank you to everyone who made today possible. Jare, Dolly, Patrick, Clive, Vinifan, Nikki, somewhere at the back, and last but by no means least, Judy. Massive round of applause for Judy. When I first became leader, Camden Black Workers Group came to see me about some of the challenges they were seeing in our organisation, but one of those was that we had stopped properly celebrating Black History Month. And it started off that we started investing again, and now this year I think there are 50 events across Camden, and it just shows how much this has grown and how much we have to celebrate together, but also how many challenges we still have to face. And over the last 2 years, we've had COVID, we've seen so much loss, we've seen the extent of racial injustice in this country in the way that COVID has disproportionately impacted Black and Asian residents. And that is because of systemic inequality, people who were going out and working on the front line, people who lived in overcrowded accommodation, these long-term inequalities that we need to fight together. And it's really important that we remember that today, but also look at the progress we've made and the things that we have to celebrate. And one of them, for me, is the work we've been doing to reclaim our public space. And a few weeks ago now, I think it was, we renamed Cecil Rhodes House, a building that glorified someone who represented racial injustice. And I always remember Jare, my good friend who can't be here tonight, saying how he'd crossed the road so as not to have to pass that building because how much pain it brought him. And it was just such an amazing event to be there, to rename it. And now, as I was saying last night, as we celebrated Sabrina's name is the only name on that building as she unveiled it. And likewise, one of our schools was called Beckford School. We renamed that school. But I think more importantly, we've been working with Black curriculum in every school in Camden to ensure that we are not just in Black History Season, but all year round, teaching our children about the Black heroes in Camden and around the world. There's lots more that's been going on, but I'll just share a couple of quick things. One is the work we've been doing with Black Pound Day and Black Creatives. I know that there's a shop in Hampstead where people can visit, which Black Camden creatives are leading. We've got our Director of Equalities, I think the first in London over here, Hanad, who's leading a huge amount of work. But one that I think really means a lot to me is our work around recruitment, which is something that Camden Black Workers Group have been pushing for a long time, but now there will, in every kind of interview process, in every recruitment process in Camden, there will be someone who's volunteering to ensure that equalities are at the heart of it, and it's that transparency that we need to have real change. So there's a lot to do, as well as a lot to celebrate, and I think it often falls on Black people to fight racism and to have that burden, and I wanted to be here to say that I want to be an ally in that fight, here to be challenged, here to work alongside Camden Black Workers Group and Camden's community to ensure we really do fight racial injustice in our borough and our country.
Thank you, Georgia. As she said, it's very good to be able to have a physical event after 2 years. It's been 2, obviously, long and in some cases very difficult years. But as Georgia says, there has been some positive change, and the Black Lives Matter movement and so on has emphasised the importance of making public space more inclusive and reflecting, the kind of society we want to be, and, issues such as renaming buildings named after people like Cecil Rhodes is a good sort of example of that. And I know one of the other cabinet members that's involved in these kind of community cohesion matters is Councillor Abdul Hai, who, if he is here, I would like to invite him to say a few words, but I don't think he is. So I will pass over to Liz Wheatley, who's the Camden Unison Branch Secretary.
So, I would also like to start with thanking Judy and Jackie and the CBWG team for putting on this event, not just this year, but for the last number of years. Really, really fantastic, successful events. Because Black History Month is important to see how far we've come in challenging racism, but it's also important to look at how far we still have to go. because we only have to look at the booing when footballers took the knee earlier this year to know not everybody thinks that Black Lives Matter. And as a trade union, we challenge this both in the community and in the workplace. So for us, many of the unsung heroes are actually the care workers, the cleaners, the social workers, the people who've kept us safe and well during the pandemic. And sometimes I do worry, I sound a bit like a stuck record on this, and this is always one of my challenges to Georgia and Camden's management team, because it's important to us that we see a diverse leadership in the borough, but it's also important to us that we see an end to our black members being disproportionately stuck in low-paid jobs. And that doesn't mean they want to be in different jobs. Like me, not everybody wants to be a manager, but we do want those jobs to be properly valued, and that means to be respected and to be paid properly, because there is plenty of money in society to fund our public services. During the pandemic, the number of billionaires in this country went up by 24 to 171. Their combined wealth went up more than 20%. And of course, we all know the government gave billions to their mates and friends and family in corrupt COVID contracts. So the money is there. It's about a political decision where it goes. And that's where union members come in. We actually need to be organising and demanding change in that. So, for instance, early next year, we need to be ready to take action for better pay. Because in the last decade, our pay has gone down in real terms by over 20%. That means we work a day a week for free. In the city, they have Dress Down Friday. In Camden Council, we have Pay Free Friday, and that's not good enough, because the people who hit the most by this are black workers in those low-paid jobs. But of course, we can fight back as well. I'm not here to say how terrible it is. I'm here to say, if we get organised, we can do something about it. We can resist, because our history is it's absolutely filled with groups and individuals who changed history. People like Toussaint Louverture with the Haitian uprising against slavery, like obviously Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, like Angela Davis. People, we're going to hear from Neville Lawrence later about how they took on the Nazis and the police. People like Joe Bindesai, who was part of a group of Asian women who took on the bosses at Grunwick's. Now, they're all the individuals that we know, but actually they all had a movement with them. There weren't people who marched alone. There were people who marched as a collective, marched with other people in their millions. And that's made a real difference, because the resurgent Black Lives Matter movement that came back onto the streets in 2020, that's the only reason, really, that Derek Chauvin, the cop who murdered George Floyd, is actually in jail. When they rang out that verdict earlier this year of guilty, 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 it was because of the millions of people in the streets in the States, but also around the world, who joined those protests, who made that movement, who made that organisation. And without that, nothing would have changed. So as Camden Unison, we're proud to sponsor this event. We also always say to people, if you're not a member, join us and become part of that fight for change and become part of the fight against racism. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Liz. As Liz says, the pandemic has shown us the importance of, the key workers who've been working in retail, doing deliveries, providing healthcare, education, social services. And, it's some of those workers are among the lowest paid in society and deserve a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. I'd like to now invite Councillor Abdul Hai, who's the Cabinet Member for Community Cohesion, to speak to the meeting. Hello, Abdul.
Okay, thank you so much, and it's a real pleasure to be here this evening, especially given the fact that I was here with our Mayor, our leader, and member of staff from Camden Council celebrating Councillor Francis being the first black mayor in Camden, and now we're sort of here this evening celebrating Black History Month. I want to thank the Camden Black Workers Group and everyone who's been involved in making this possible. And I think for us as a council, and I'm sure our leader would have already made that point, that for us, this is not just about Black History Season, this is not about Black History Month. Black history is part and parcel of our borough, is part of our diversity, which we value, and it's really important for us to make sure that this is something that happens across 365 days. And we are really proud in Camden, some of the work that we've done, especially with the great leadership from Hanad Mohammed, who has led some amazing work around building equal foundations, which I happen to co-chair, looking at sort of disproportionality amongst Black and Asian ethnic groups because of the pandemic. And I think we've learned a great deal from this. The fact that there is structural inequalities exist, the fact that that is systematic, and I think for us, we can't just be bystanders hoping things will happen. Well, nothing will happen. We have to be the change makers. We have to stand up and challenge those institutions in the same way that I've been doing it. Councillor Goulds have been doing it. Also, our Mayor, Councillor Francis, who was on that working group. And also, she also happened to be on the Statue and Memorial Working Group. Through that group, we've made changes. We've got rid of Cecil Rhodes' house from Camden. Yes, it took almost 67 years. We made it happen because there was a willingness, there was a commitment, and I think that kind of spirit that we need Camden. We'll make sure that Camden becomes, super diverse and it reflects our communities. So through the leadership of Hanad Mohammed, we are developing a public realm policy to making sure that all our statues, our street names, our houses reflects our communities, and very much hope that in the near future you'll see that buildings and street names will reflect our Black communities, our Asian communities, and that's something that I'm really, really proud. But one thing we cannot get away from the fact that George Floyd's murder has been a global phenomenon where people stood up because people had enough, and I think it's a moment that we should seize on. And I know George's family might not see that way, but for us, I think it's important that even though it's been really tragic, really unfortunate, the goodwill is there, and we've got to seize that moment. We've got to demand those structural inequalities changes, and we must demand, and it must happen at all levels, from international level to national to local. Here in Camden, we're making those changes, whether it's introducing Black curriculum in our schools so that people learn about the Black history. I mean, I look at my own experience going to schools in Camden. I came from a Asian Bangladeshi background. I had no knowledge of contribution that Asian people made during the World War II. Almost 1 million people have died. I don't see any statues. I don't see anywhere it says about the lives they've sacrificed. In the same way that the Afro-Caribbean communities, when they came in, after World War II to rebuild Britain, there's hardly any acknowledgement. And these are the things that we've got to change. But this evening is about celebrating Black History Month, celebrating the positive contribution made by Black people, whether it's looking in science, to media, to arts and culture. There is real legacies. And I think we want to make sure that our children growing up look up to us as change makers, because we don't want them to sort of spend their time fighting structural inequalities, racism. So we've got to be the brave souls that leads the way, and we can't just somehow think that yes, someone else is going to do it. No one's going to do it. We've got to work together. I think I've spoken for quite a bit. So just really enjoy the evening, and just to say well done to Camden staff members. I can't say anywhere. It's Nikki. Nikki has done a fabulous job working with our Black Workers Group, and very much look forward to hearing the rest of the evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Abdul. In terms of sort of, statues, they are a sort of symbolic matter, but I do think they're one of those things that, it's about whether public space is inclusive or not. I did read an interesting article in The Guardian a couple of days ago that said there are more statues of animals in London than of named women, and I suspect the proportion of those women who are Black or from other ethnic minority backgrounds is probably even lower. So obviously, I don't think public space reflects the people who live and work in this city. So I think that's enough from me now. I'll hand over to our compere for the evening, Alim, who will be sort of introducing the other events from now on this evening. Thank you.
Round of applause for Ragadan, please. Thank you, DJ. I appreciate you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. All right, my name is Alim Kamara. As you have been told, I will be your host for this evening. We have a serious lineup for you this evening. So I hope you are ready. Few things I would like to do. I've already introduced our DJ for the evening. I would like to also acknowledge our 2 BSL interpreters. Ladies and gentlemen, over here we have Tayo. Round of applause for Tayo, please. You see the way I introduced Tayo like she's a model. Look, this is Tayo. And over here we have Grace. Round of applause for Grace, please. Now, I think it's only important, we've heard everybody clapping, but when we are doing sign language, how do we clap in sign language? Can you show me? So everybody, jeez, I like it. And then how do we say Black History Month? Hi. You see that one? Shwang. It's not contour. It's not makeup, eh? Black history. So we are going back. Okay? And then the month is 3 fingers on the palm. You don't need to slap your hand. Don't hurt yourself. I'm hearing. All right. How's everybody feeling this evening? You good? So, ladies and gentlemen, it has been a year to be able to be amongst people again. How many of us have had to do Zoom meetings where you turn off your camera? You forgot to turn off your mic. And then you start shouting at the children. Can you turn off your mic? Oh, sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you for being here this evening. It's really important that we're acknowledging that we're celebrating Black History Month. And it's so powerful to hear the amazing works that's been done. So I want to get rolling with the event this evening. But before we do that, when I ask for a number 1, I need you to all to clap your hands. So can I have a number 1, please? Whether you want to do this one, whether you want to clap. When I ask for number 2, that's when you rumble your feet. Can I have a number 2, please? Sweet. Then when I ask for a number 3, that's when you go, cheese and bread. and you have to, can I get a number 3? No, it was too deep. It was too deep. I'll need to hear the squeak. Cheese and bread. Can I have a number 3? All right. All right. I think we are ready to get started. Let me just take this off. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen. Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my first time witnessing this. Ladies and gentlemen, right now, we are about to sign song by a singer by the name of Georgina Buckle. So please, give me a number 1, please. Give me a number 2. Give me a number 3. All right, Georgina, welcome to the stage. Welcome to the stage. Yes, Raga, talk to me. Raga, talk to me. Talk to me. While Georgina's making her way to the stage.
Flowing from the grace that I found.
going, keep it going. All right, ladies and gentlemen, right about now, I'm going to introduce Uncle to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, before I introduce Uncle, there was a term flying around last year about all lives matter. I love that term because I get to challenge it. Thank you. When people say, but all lives matter, I said, okay, here's what happened. Your house is on fire. We call the fire brigade. The fire brigade comes and they start to put the hose towards the house that is next door instead of the house that is burning. And you come and you say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you putting the hose towards that house? And the firefighter says to you, because all houses matter. And if you ask how you can explain to somebody, when they say to you, all lives matter, we know all lives matter. But right now, there's a house that is on fire. Does that make sense? Yes or yes? So ladies and gentlemen, right now I'm about to introduce our special guest speaker, a British activist who currently supports black people. He's also backing the protest for the Black Lives Matter movement. He helps black people to get justice and equality in England. Ladies and gentlemen, please, I'm going to need everybody to stand up and give a round of applause and welcome to the stage Uncle Neville Lawrence, O-B-E. Please, keep it going, please, ladies and gentlemen, please, keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. One of the first things I have to say, I'm very sorry for being late. I tried so hard to get here early so I could see and prepare myself for this, because one of the things I always say, and I'll always keep saying this, without you people who are sitting in this hall today, or tonight, or what it might be, I wouldn't be standing here. The support you people gave us in the early days can't be counted. I used to go all over this country, and the best thing for me used to be the fact that there was a conference, Black Workers Conference, that was part of my life and still is part of my life. And one of the things I normally say to people is, whenever there's a thing for us to get together and stand up, we do that. And this man said Black Lives Matter. Absolutely. Over the years, I wouldn't be standing here tonight, and whenever I go to a conference, I always want to make sure that this gentleman is in the audience. Because if it wasn't for this gentleman, and I'm going to ask him to stand up, Azim, could you please stand up? I know everybody knows that in America, when there was a tragedy, the family liked always go to the church for support. We did that as well. But I can remember one evening when we sat down, I was thinking, how are we going to get the persons who are supposed to protect us which is the police, to do their job. And I thought to myself, we are nobodies. We can't do anything. We tried going to the church. The church wasn't strong enough for them to listen to. And then a group of black people from the union, led by Azim Hazid, came to the house. And they suggested that we tried to get the union involved. We went to Blackpool. There was a TUC conference in Blackpool. It was me and Haji went, and we decided to leaflet the benches. And the reason why we was doing this is because the delegates would see this and take it back to the unions, the other unions. We were in the hotel that night, getting ready to watch TV, and there was a knock on the door. And some of the convenient people from the conference came in and said, "We've seen your leaflets, but we think it would be better if you went up on stage and addressed the assembly." I think it must be well over 2,000, 3,000, or 4,000 people. I've never been up on a stage and talked to anybody before. And I said to him, no way. And we went up in the train together with, I think she was the commissioner or something to do with South Africa. And they were saying how brilliant this woman was at speaking. And me and Azim went to the conference that morning, and I started to shake when I saw the amount of people that was in there. And we were sitting there waiting to be called. And when you prepare yourself for something and it doesn't happen, you start to think, well, there is no way I can do this then. So it was lunchtime after this woman spoke. And then they said we'd have to go up on the stage after lunch. And there were some things that these people wanted to get past. And the anger in this house, in this conference, I was saying to myself, nobody is going to want to listen to what my family has to say. It wasn't even very important. And I remember getting up on this stage that day, and I started to look at the group that Hazim had brought to the conference, just looking at them, focusing on them. I don't know where these words came from, but they came. And I explained to the conference what was happening with the family and that we needed help from the conference. And after I finished speaking, the applause, and I'm thinking, well, why are these people applauding? I just told them what's happening with my family. Do they understand what I'm trying to do? And I said, everything just started to excel. We start getting support from all the different unions, start calling me to come down and talk and address the conferences. But yes, I was glad about that. But the main thing I will always remember and will never forget is the fact that this person, which is Azim, came. He had no problems with his family, but he saw the distress that our family was in. And with you as his support, and brought me into the situation where I could talk on stage and get to know how to proceed with getting justice for the death of my son. I'm so pleased to be here tonight around you people. There's no way I can tell you thanks enough. for what you have done for my family. And I don't know if you have seen this new documentary that came out, the 3 parts, so to see what these people who are supposed to be protecting us, the law people. My eyes filled with water when I saw one of the sections in this new documentary where they had sold a whole police station that had all the papers to do with my son's case. And they sold it to a private person who could then go into this new building and destroy all the evidence that was to do with my son's case. And I'm so grateful that this person, this new police officer that took over the case, saw it and rescued it. And that was the only way we could have got some justice. And if you remember what I just said, some justice, because there are still people who killed my son walking around, not walking around, but free to get on with their life when it's almost 27 years. And my life has been turned upside down. And I'm thankful for the little justice that we got. But if that was my son, who at that night stabbed somebody, he wouldn't be around to talk on stage or say anything. His life would have been over. So again, I am saying to you people, keep doing what you're doing. I'll support you in any possible way that I can. And thank you very much for your support over the years. Thank you very much.
Could we get some people sharing? What does Black History Month mean to you? Can I have a show of hands? Can I have somebody put up their hand and we'll bring the microphone over? Can I have somebody share, please? Anybody, anybody? Big people, come on, come on. There are young people watching in this room right now. What does Black History Month mean to you? Big people, I need your help, I need your, beautiful. Yes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Errol McKellar, and you know what? I'm touched to be sitting next to these 2 wonderful gentlemen here, and as they said, this couldn't happen without everybody in this room. You know, we don't realise, right, when we look over our shoulder and we help one another, right, how important it becomes. You know, it was something that we were taught to do when we were growing up, and you know, as we get older, sometimes we just forget what the things that we should do as a normal progress, you know. And, you know, listen, as black people, we have come a long way, you know, and we have to deal with many, many issues, but we must continue to be positive, you know, take guidance and reference from these 2 gentlemen here. You know, the different things that brought them together made them stronger by helping each other, and we have to learn from that. So what does Black history mean? It's a history that shouldn't be called history, it should be called future.
Come on.
Thank you.
Okay. I like that, I like that. Anybody else, anybody else? Anybody else, anybody else? No. All right, we will move on. All right, we got one here, one somebody here.
I'm just going to keep it brief. But yeah, Black history means a lot to me because I learn something every single year. I learn something new. And I brought my children with me today because I know back in the day when I was in school, there was Black history, but we never really learned a lot that we will remember. But this generation now, they're so lucky that, you know, events that's been happening and the awareness. Like, I know back in the day when we used to watch television, there was no black people on the TV, but now it's just like every single advert, you're just seeing so many. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Everywhere, you know, and they don't understand that. When I said it to them, I'm like, well, another black person. I know I don't want to put it too much onto them, but it's just so unique just seeing that and just, you know, So yeah, it means a lot to me to see the change and be able to educate my children as well. That's what it means to me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
So for us that are deaf, you know, when the Black Lives Matter happened, you know, there was a lot of negative words that needed to be removed. Yep. So I think it's important that, you know, a lot of the negative connotations that come with black people needs to be removed. Hello. I think it's really important when we think about Black History Month that it's not just October, you know. It should be all year round. It's really important. Without Black history, there isn't really much there because, you know, it's, you know, the contributions to society, you know, for myself as a black deaf person, I think it's really important that we value the work that we've done.
Round of applause for everybody. Thank you. Cheese and bread. Can I get a cheese and bread? All right, ladies and gentlemen, our next act, political and cultural activist and founder of New Beacon Books, the first specialist Caribbean publishing company in Britain. Ladies and gentlemen, can I have a number 1, please?
Yes, you
Can I have a number 3? Can I have a number 3? Give me a number 2. Please welcome to the stage, Michael Rose.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
How are you feeling?
Good.
It's good to see everyone, and it's good to be here with the Camden Black Workers. First, I want to pay tribute to Neville Lawrence and the Lawrence family for their courage and commitment after the painful and tragic murder of their son, Stephen. It was easier to give up. Your actions have changed British history and society. Thank you from everybody. Stay strong. Camden is important in the struggles of black people in Britain. Can you hear me properly? Am I just... Okay. St. Pancras, it was a venue of the Caribbean Carnival in Britain at St. Pancras Town Hall in 1959. The West Indian Carnival was organized for 4 years by Claudia Jones in response to the 1958 Notting Hill and Nottingham race riots, and the racist murder of Kelso Cochrane. This Sunday, Grove United is holding a Black History Month event to remember Kelso Cochrane, with a procession from the site of Cochrane's murder on Goulburn Road at 1:45 to the church where his funeral was held on Labbot Grove. St. Pancras Town Hall was also the home, on rotation, of the International Book Fair of Radical Black and Third World Books in the 1980s and 90s. Camden was the home of activist George Padmore, where there is a plaque in his honor. Finally, Camden Black Workers Trade Union members was a radical group that often invited John LaRose to address and share his ideas and information on campaigns. One of their active members was Azim Haji. You saw Azim earlier. He was part of the Stephen Lawrence campaign and later became a trustee in the GPI. You see, there is a history here. My father, John LaRose, was a writer, activist, poet, and publisher. I will try to tell you today about what he did, but also try to inform you about the person John LaRose was. He was the tip of the spear of black organizations and struggles in Britain which changed Britannia. If I consulted him before I came here today, as I would normally have done, he would say, "What you going to say? Don't talk about me. Talk about the movement and the people who supported those movements I was involved in. Give them information, knowledge, and history so that they're able to organize, struggle, and build institutions themselves." John La Rose was part of the Caribbean radical and resistance tradition, which goes as far back as Toussaint, Kofi, Fedon, and Nani. He was also part of a Caribbean intellectual tradition, which included C.L.R. James, Brathwaite, Rodney, Padmore, Fanon, Jones, and Lamming. In his obituary in 2006, I called him our smiling warrior. He was charming, shared his knowledge with everyone equally, was interested in young people especially, loved poetry and literature. He was brave, courageous, and dreamed to change the world. Before I start properly, I want to give you some definitions and explanations. My relationship with my father was complex. He was my father, but we belonged to the same organizations, so he's also John, the most experienced and knowledgeable activist. So I tend to talk about John throughout this talk. It is not disrespectful, but full of admiration. Secondly, I use the words politics or political. I'm definitely not referring to the two-party Westminster parliamentary system exported to the ex-colonies. The politics and political I'm talking about is the struggle of ordinary people organizing against injustice and for social justice and change. One of John La Rose's saying was, we did not come alive in Britain. In other words, we have brought our talents, organization, culture, fashion, music, and spirit of resistance and have changed Britain. What was his influences? One was the powerful 1930s insurrections up and down the Caribbean, which challenged British colonialism and which later led to the birth of Caribbean trade unions and the anti-colonial struggle. Another big influence of the Caribbean intellectuals from the Beacon magazine, who valued and self-validated Caribbean literature, art, music, and the folk culture in the time of rampant white supremacy. Beacon members included C.L.R. James, Alfred Mendez, Ralph de Boissier, and Albert Gomes. As a young man, John joined a study group and became a communist. He joined the radical Trinidad Youth Council, organized by Lennox Peer, who became a lifelong friend. John engaged with the young committed activists in the Youth Council, where he met his future wife, Irma La Rose, which is Irma Hilaire at that time, who was also my mother. John wrote the first book on the genius of Calypso or Calypso music with Raymond Quevedo, also known as the Calypsonian Attila the Hun. The book was called Attila's Calypso, a short history of Trinidad and Tobago Calypso. John was impressed with the worldwide organization of Pan-Africanist George Padmore and Marcus Garvey's UNIA. He regarded trade unions as the building base for movements for radical and revolutionary change, with ordinary people committed and participating. John became leader of the Workers' Freedom Movement and secretary of the West Indian Independence Party. In 1962, John decided to study to be a lawyer in London and emigrated with his nephew, arranging for the rest of the family to join later. When the family arrived in North London, John and Irma bought a house which became a base of political activity with many meetings of activists from the Caribbean, now exiled in London, like C.L.R. James, Eric and Jessica Huntley, Peter Blackman, and Lionel Jeffries. Eventually, John and Irma decided to separate, but were disciplined activists and continued their political work jointly for many years. John started to be involved with the media and making film documentaries like the one on the Pentecostal church in Angel. He produced TV shows with Arena called Caribbean Nights. He also made a documentary recording one of the most important events in black political activism at that time, the Mangrove 9 campaign. John used the strategies and lessons learned from the Mangrove 9 in future campaigns for justice against the police. The Mangrove 9 film is available as a DVD. By the time John LaRose arrived in London, he was a seasoned, experienced political activist with a clear vision. He believed in merging politics, art, and culture in activism. He believed in building institutions as part of independent action. In 1966, John started the Caribbean Artists Movement, CAM, with two friends, Andrew Solke from Jamaica, an author and broadcaster, and Edward Kamau Brathwaite, the great poet and historian from Barbados. Although CAM existed until 1972, it had a far-reaching and profound effect on the art and culture in the diaspora, when artists returned home and put these ideas into action. In 1992, New Beacon Books published The Caribbean Artist Movement, A Literary and Cultural History by Anne Walmsley. Again, in 1966, John and his partner Sarah White started New Beacon Books, a public publishing house and booksellers. This is what he says was the reason. Growing up in a colonial society made me acutely aware that colonial policy was based on a deliberate withholding of information from generation to generation. There was also a discontinuity of information from generation to generation. Publishing, therefore, was a vehicle to give an independent validation to one's own culture, history, politics, a sense of self, and to make a break with discontinuity. The New Beacon Books project was built slowly and carefully. It started with a box of books taken to CAM meetings, Black Education Movement meetings, and meetings of the Black Power movement. Over time, the bookshop grew and was set up in two front rooms of two different domestic houses. In the early 70s, New Beacon could afford a proper shopfront space at 76 Stroud Green Road in Finsbury Park and eventually bought the building. New Beacon Books became a safe house for organizations in struggle, as well as a place for cultural events. New Beacon Bookshop became the London base for many international campaigns against repressive post-colonial governments in Kenya, Guyana, Nigeria, Trinidad and Tobago, Ghana, and Grenada. John worked closely with Eric and Jessica Huntley, who formed Bogle Louverture Bookshop and Publishing. They helped each other. John's vision for publishing in New Beacon included making historical information available to a new generation, like the 1967 short biography of Marcus Garvey, who, incredibly, was not well known in the black community at that time. New Beacon Books published and reprinted classic publications and new writing in novels and poetry. We had a policy of supporting other new black authors, publishers and bookshops. New Beacon did and still does depend on the committed volunteers to run the bookshop and help us to survive. In 2020, New Beacon Books, the first black bookshop and publishing house in Britain, celebrated 55 years in existence. The lockdown has caused New Beacon serious survival problems too. So make the political and right decision and buy your books from our website and bookshop. Tell your friends and family, Amazon has enough money. John was very involved with the black education movement in London, fighting for black children and their parents. He was involved with the successful anti-banding and busing campaigns in Haringey with the North London West Indian Association. He was prominent in the Caribbean Education and Community Workers Association, called SEQUA, and their campaign to stop black children being dumped in ESN schools. New Beacon Books published the SEQUA campaigning document by Bernard Cord called How the West Indian Child is Made Educationally Subnormal in the British Education System. In 2021, the BBC screened the documentary Subnormal by a young black director, Litania Shannon, with Steve McQueen, about the ESN campaign. John responded to the crisis and continuing struggle of black children in the education system. In his front room, he started the George Padmore and Albertina Sylvester Supplementary School to teach black children what they were denied in school. That is, black history and culture, maths and English. This led to a movement of independent supplementary schools nationally. Individual students and parents in the George Padmore and Albertina Sylvester School became teachers in the school and members of future activist organizations. With the encouragement of John and Gus John, the supplementary schools formed NAS, the National Association of Supplementary Schools. In 1975, Cliff McDaniel, a schoolboy and friend of my brother Keith, was beaten up by police outside his school in Hornsey. The schoolboy was thrown into the police van, beaten, and then taken to the station. John called a meeting with Cliff and his parents and formed a campaign committee and significantly formed the Black Parents Movement, BPM, and the Black Students Movement, later renamed the Black Youth Movement, BYM. The Cliff McDaniel campaign gave political education and legal training to old and young members of the organizations. This came especially from John and Ian MacDonald, a lawyer we had worked with closely since Mangrove 9. And they trained people to take legal statements. The BPM and BYM used strategies developed in the Mangrove 9 campaign. The British courts were an arena of political struggle. Race Today, edited by Darcus Howe and The Collective, became the BPM and BYM's media outlet. John was intimately involved with the organization of BPM and BYM campaigns for justice against police brutality. Overwhelmingly to black youth. These included the Wood Green 18, Newton Rose, George Lindo in Bradford, Misty in Roots in Southall, and cases in Harlesden, Hackney, Manchester, all over. The BPM and BYM was set out a simple document for organizing. As many people sought this advice, it was called Principles of Organization. John said, teach people how to organize and form independent, autonomous organizations. This was the opposite of a vanguard party. John always sought the politics of alliances, that is, working with others and getting stronger. He proposed the formation of a new organization with people who had been working together for a number of years. They were the BPM North London, BYM, BPM Ealing, BPM Manchester, Race Today Collective, and Bradford Black Collective. The name of this grouping would be the Alliance. They would become one of the most effective black radical organizations of its generation. On the 18th of January, 1981, at 439 New Cross Road, 13 young black people were killed in a fire while attending a 16th birthday party for Yvonne Ruddock. In total, there were 14 deaths. John and the others left a BPM meeting to investigate. They saw Mrs. Ruddock, who told them clearly that 2 police officers told her that a firebomb started the fire. This was in an area with a history of recent racist firebombings. Alex Pascal of BBC Radio London, Black Londoners programme, recorded an interview with Mrs. Ruddock. The New Cross fire caused outrage in the black community. The public meeting called was attended by 500 people, with many black organizations present, including the Alliance. The meeting decided that John should be the chair of an organization called the New Cross Massacre Action Committee, to seek the truth and justice for the families and the dead. John used all his experience and proposed meetings held every week on a Monday to report developments and consult with the community. These meetings were called the Black People's Assemblies and were attended by 300 people. It was at a Black People's Assembly that the New Cross Massacre Action Committee decided to have a demonstration on March the 3rd, 1981, called the Black People's Day of Action. The Assembly decided to hold the march on a Monday to disrupt the working day in London. Small committees were organized and formed all over the country for the march. John LaRose, Dark as How, Gus John crisscrossed the country mobilizing. Over 20,000 people took part in the historic march, but it was hardly reported in the mainstream media. The New Cross Massacre issued the Declaration of New Cross, warning there would be no peace without justice. Insurrections exploded first in Brixton, London in April, and then all over the country in every major city in Britain, with chants of, "This is for New Cross." The uprisings made the Thatcher government change its tack and opened crash training and jobs to form a black middle class as quick as possible. The New Cross Massacre story, Interviews with John LaRose, was published. Steve McQueen and Rogan Productions produced the 3-part documentary Uprising. about the new crossfire and its repercussions, which was screened on BBC One in 2021. John proposed the formation of the International Book Fair Radical Black and Third World Books in 1982. And in 1991, he proposed the formation of a black archive of the struggle in Britain called the George Padmore Institute. In 2005, Horace Ove made the film Dream to Change the World. In 2015, the GPI organized the life of John LaRose at the Islington Museum. John's legacy will be, if after today you study the organizations and strategies he was involved with and adapt them to the future, to your time, and to your struggles, that's what he would want. There are many struggles ahead for us and our grandchildren, many rivers to cross. The legacy of my father always reminds me of the Ghanaian Adinkra, Sankofa. Look back to go forward, and then educate, inform, act, but most of all, dream to change the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Round of applause, please, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, whilst I was sitting down, I really did start to hear bellies rumbling. So, so we've got 2 more presentations, and then we are going to chop. We are going to eat. Can I get a cheese and bread? Quick question. Has anybody here ever heard of Cheddar Man? Anybody here heard of Cheddar Man? Let me see your hand up if you heard of Cheddar Man. Okay. Cool. So just to quickly drop this, I've been going into schools working with young people, and one of the people that I speak about is Cheddar Man. And Cheddar Man is a man who is called the first modern Black Briton. He was discovered in 1903 up in Cheddar Gorge, and when they found the bones of this man, they said, it must be a white man. But back then, they didn't have the technology, but technology develops. And forensic science and everything, isotope, and they discovered that this man was a black man with blue eyes who lived 10,000 years ago. Yes, that's right, in the UK, 10,000 years ago, this man lived. So when people say to me, go back home, I'm like, oh yeah. Africans have been traveling to the UK for about 40,000 to 60,000 years. What are you talking? Can I get a cheese and bread? All right. So we ready, ladies and gentlemen? You look good. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Paula Perry. Hey, come on, sister. Let's go. Come on now. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone, and good evening. I'd like to thank the speakers that have spoken before, and also like to thank Camden Black Workers Group as well, because this is the 3rd time I've invited back to a Black History Month event, and I travel the country and in and out of schools each year, and I'm always excited to come to the Camden Black History Month event because it's always the best one of the year. So I'm really thankful to be invited back, and especially thanking the group and especially Judy as well. So this month is Proud to Be Month. That's the theme of the month. And I normally travel around doing Black history events in schools, focusing on Black British history. Because oftentimes when we learn stuff about Black history, sometimes it's always led to the American civil rights, American stuff. So I focus on things that is the excellence of Black British history and also a co-author of a best-selling book called Black British History, Black Influences on British Culture from 1948 to 2016. So it focuses on modern culture. So today I will be presenting some of the people who have lived or come from Camden who have done amazing things for and in the community. So I would start the presentation with a gentleman called John Oakey, otherwise known as Uncle John. His dedication to the front line of grassroots politics in Camden for nearly 40 years. He's the founder of the Camden Black Parents and Teachers Association, and his concerns that were too many young black people were being failed by the school system and leaving without any qualifications that impacted their self-esteem and aspirations. So he started this group, which led to supplementary schools being opened as well in the borough. He's also the founder of a housing association which initially started to tackle the high rate of homelessness amongst young black men initially in the borough before widening its remit to BMEs and also in Brent and Barnet. He was a school governor, parent governor, and a trustee of the Camden Community Law Centre. Next slide, thank you. So just giving some background to Uncle John, he was born on the 3rd of February 1934 in Nigeria. He arrived in Britain as a teenager, qualified as a civil engineer, returned to Nigeria to use his skills. He returned to the UK during the 1970s and settled in Kentish Town. Now, Uncle John's legacy is the CARF Centre established in 1998, which still runs today and has had hundreds of children pass through the centre. He's a founder of pioneering organisations, and these were some words from his youngest daughter. His work inspired so many lives, and he was still in touch with young people. He mentored along the way, and people who have gone on to do well would always address him as Uncle John. Thank you. The next person has been mentioned is George Padmore. George Padmore is said to be one of the most influential thinkers of the 20th century who helped set the agendas for decolonization after World War II. He's a leading Pan-Africanist and journalist and author, and lived in Camden at 22 Cranley Street in Camden, organized the 5th Pan-African Conference held in Manchester in 1945, and also he was an advisor for Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, Ghana's first Prime Minister and President on African affairs in Accra, Ghana. So here's some of his life as well. Born on the 28th of June, 1903 in Trinidad. He traveled to the US in 1923 to study medicine. He moved to the Soviet Union where he was active in the party and working on African independence movements. He moved to London in 1934. And towards the end of his life, he moved to Accra in Ghana, where he helped shape the politics of Kwame Nkrumah and the Convention People's Party. So, George Padmore's legacy, he's the father of the African emancipation. He was commemorated his achievement with a blue plaque has been set outside his home at 22 Cranley Street in Camden, the place where he called home for 16 years. The plaque was unveiled 98 years to the day that George Padmore was born also. So our next person that we will be recognizing is Beryl Gilroy. She's the first black head teacher in London that happened in 1969 in a school in the borough. She's most extensively published Caribbean writer of the Windrush generation. Developed a pioneering practice in psychotherapy, working mainly with black women and children, and the co-founder of the Camden Black Sister Group in the early 1980s also. So Beryl Gilroy was born on the 30th of August 1924 in Guyana. At the age of 19, she graduated with a first-class diploma in teachers training, arrived in London in 1952, studied at the London University, gaining a diploma in child development and a BSc in psychology, and also gained a PhD in counseling and psychology in 1987. Her legacy is the first black head teacher in London, pioneering writer and author. She's received many honors and awards for her careers as a writer. One of her books here is Black Teachers, where she spoke about her experience becoming a teacher and the racism and prejudice that she received. Also, alongside that, she spoke about how she was less paid from her colleagues, even though she was the head teacher. But she continued with what she was doing for her love of what she was doing as a teacher. She's honored in 1990 by GLC for her service in education. She's an honorary doctorate from University of North London. And in 2000 received a highly prestigious award that a university can give from the Institution of Education. And she's also the mother of Professor Paul Gilroy, also an intellectual and writer. So Asquith Xavier is the first black worker employed on the train guard at London and Euston Station in 1966. He played a key role in ending the colour bar, which prevented black people from working in public-facing roles, and successfully campaigned to end the racial discrimination practiced by British Rails, which helped to bring in the 1968 Race Relations Act. Now, in our book as well, the first one was 1965, but the Act talked about not being discriminated in public spaces. And it was through the different political campaigns, which be the Bristol boycott, a lot of the things that happened in Oxford Street and Regent Street, and alongside this, that helped shape and bring forth the Race Relations Act of 1968 and its changes. Thank you. So his life was, he was born on the 18th of July, 1920 in Dominica, arrived in London April 1958, and joined British Railways and worked as a guard at Marylebone Station. There's a plaque held at Euston Station. A second plaque was held in Chatham Station where he lived. He's a pioneer for black equality, broke the colour bar at Euston Station on the 15th of August 1966, and his fight for justice led to changes to the 1968 Race Relations Act, making it illegal to refuse employment, housing, or public services to an individual on the grounds of their race. Okay, our next person is Norman Samuels. He's Bristol's first black bus driver in 1964. Now, I know everybody knows who Rosa Parks is, right? So as how many people are aware that there was actually a bus boycott in 1963 in Bristol? Could you just raise your hands? So there's a few people who are aware of that. So I think it's really important as British people, when I do go into schools, that's something that I make clear as well, that we all know who Rosa Parks is, but we're unaware of a bus boycott that was held in this country, also led by a gentleman called Paul Stevenson. So Norman became a bus conductor working as one of only 5 non-white staff members, and he's the first black man to be allowed to take the road test. When he actually passed the road test, there was and started driving the buses, there was almost like a crowd of people just wanting to see, like, oh my gosh, there's a black man driving a bus at the time where it happened. So his life and legacy is born in Clarendon, Jamaica in 1936. Arrived in the UK in 1960, and he's a part of the prolonged anti-racism campaign of the Bristol Omnibus Company in the 1960s. So last but not least is Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, a Ghanaian politician and political theorist and revolutionary. He led the first African colony to achieve independence from Britain, co-organized with George Padmore the 5th Pan-African Conference held in Manchester in 1945. He's the first Prime Minister and president of Ghana, which was former name was the Gold Coast, and a founding member of the Organization of African Unity. Born September 1909 in Gold Coast, now Ghana, started his career as a teacher. He arrived in London spring 1945 to study, but by autumn 1945, his academic work was overshadowed by his political activities. He returned to the Gold Coast in 1947 and became General Secretary of the United Gold Coast Convention, and formed the convention's People's Party in 1949. Some of his legacy, I think some of these people, there's so many excellent things, but because of time, I feel like sometimes I've not done justice because of the time, so I've just highlighted things, but definitely all people are worth you looking up more into more information about them. So the legacy is commemorated with a blue plaque in Camden, a blue plaque at 60 Burley Road in Kentish Town, where he lived from 1945 to 1947. An influential Africa and leader of Pan-Africanism, he became Ghana's first prime minister in 1952 and later its first president. He's inspired subsequent independence movements throughout Africa, and an author of numerous books with the key theme of liberation and the unification of Africa. Now, I am co-author of 2 best-selling books. One's called Black British History, Black Influences on British Culture from 1948 to 2016. It's aimed at Key Stage 3 students, which is 11 to 14. Teachers, parents who would like to teach within the home or teach something different in the classrooms at Black History Month. And the good thing about this, it's not just for Black History Month. You can teach it right throughout the year. There's music, there's architecture, there's politics, there's arts. There's so many things, disciplines that Black people have been influential in Britain as well. Our second book, which was published last year during the pandemic, is 30 Black History Icons, where we've chosen 30 people who have achieved excellence and 500 years of global Black influences from the UK, the US, Europe, the Caribbean, and India. Again, to showcase Black influencers that have done things worldwide despite enslavement, despite Jim Crow, despite racism. They have raised up and done excellence as well. I do have a few copies if anybody does want to come and look. There's not enough for everybody in the room, but if you do want a copy, you can come and have a look in the break as well. So thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good evening, everybody. My name is JJ, born to sing, and I'm a black man, and I'm proud to be black.
What does it mean to be a black man?
Listen, I'm proud to be black, black from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. That's what I said, yes, that's what I said. I'm proud to be black. Black beard, black heart, yes, even me clothes black. So how about that? Why? I'm proud to be black. Through me intelligent and strong, I made them one stop. But me black it not crack. No. I'm proud to be black. Like tea and the coffee, make sure the cup black, just black. Black are the berry, the sweet are the juice, I'm black. Black is the color of my skin, there ain't nothing like my melanin. Guided and powerful, always encouraging. Black is the color of my skin, there ain't nothing like my melanin. Black is the man I am, strong black king within. Listen.
Black is the color of night. Black is where the stars shine bright.
Yeah.
Black is the epitome of beauty. It's strong, it's powerful, it's fearless, it's
it's love.
Black brother, you are a king. I salute you in all your melanin.
Well, me God make me black, and me unapologetic, well proud of that. To live your life, you only get one shot. Take the opportunity when it's a knock. Them say me underprivileged, that not hold me back. Anything where them a do, black in a that. All the music them a make check, black in a that, yes. Summertime everybody want black. Black is powerful, that is a matter of fact. Anything them take, yes, we are gonna take it back. Black is rising from the bottom straight to the top, black. Never giving up, can't stop, black. Sophistication, black. Fearless, black. Strength and authority, elegance, black. Dark brown skin, pigmentation, black. Lovable and beautiful, I'm a black man. Hey, yeah. Oh, guiding and powerful, always encouraging, yeah. There ain't nothing like my melanin, I said strong black king me in. Listen one more time.
Black is the beginning.
Yeah.
It's such a mystery, so unique.
Yeah.
Black is the color that is known to be invisible, but yet it can be clearly seen.
Yeah.
Black cannot be hidden, it's the color of all colors. Black was the first, and it shall be the last.
Thank you very much.
Cheers!
Bless it. Thank you guys. My name is JJ Born to Sing. It is an honor and a privilege to be in our house. The atmosphere is just filled with power tonight. Give yourself a round of applause because you made it. You made it. And I want to say thank you to the organizers for having me. It's a blessing. The next song I'm going to sing is called Top of the Mountain. I wrote this song because there are times in life that sometimes we're in that valley situation and you can't quite see the top of the mountain. Amen? Run the track for me, Ragadon, please. Bless you, crew the sound drop. Oh, no. Yeah. There are times when I get weary and my eyes are filled with water. In the valley, I just can't seem to see the top of the mountain. Oh, I fall down on my knees, tears rolling down my face, and I cry, Father, how much more must I take? Oh Lord, help me please, 'cause I can't seem to see the top of the mountain. Yeah, but I can see it down, way over yonder. I see them coming to capture my soul, but I shall stand here. Oh no, I'm not running, 'cause I know my God, He's in control. Oh, I fall down on my knees, tears rolling down my face, and I cry, Father, how much more must I take? Oh Lord, help me please, 'cause I can't seem to see the top of the mountain. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, I can't see it, no. Yeah. There are times when I get weary and my eyes, they are filled with water. In the valley, I just can't seem to see the top of the mountain. Oh, down on my knees, tears rolling down my face, and I cried, Father, how much more must I take? Oh Lord, help me please, 'cause I can't seem to see the top of the mountain. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Whoa. Sometimes I can see it, no, yeah. The top of the mountain, the top of the mountain, yeah. The top of the mountain, come on. Hey, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Amen.
JJ born to sing. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Woo-hoo.